Hello, Dan here. This is, of course, the ENFP reboot. Dating is an area of my life I feel I do pretty well. And not just because I have maybe the best dating profile ever. No, I'm not going to tell you what app I'm on. Maybe I will at some point. I'll let it slip. But also because I enjoy the process. And that sounds a funny thing to say with this big smile on my face, but it's true. I have always loved dating, and it's one of the things that when I'm in a long-term relationship that I kind of miss, that experience of meeting new people, having that sort of more intense conversation because you don't know each other yet, or I don't know, I've always liked dating. And I've heard from a couple women I've been out with dates on where they express this dislike of dating. Not just because they're on a date with me, hopefully. Hopefully it's a more general statement. It's not like, tonight I hate dating. But that one of the reasons they like being in a long-term relationship is they don't have to date. And that dating is like full of disappointment, and they're just like, I just finally want to meet someone so I cannot have to keep going on dates. And it's like, well, yeah, that does not sound like a very nice way to live, right? It also probably means that you're going to lower your standards, because if you hate the process of something, you're not going to really put up a lot of barriers to get to the outcome. Like the first barely suitable candidate, you're like, boom, let's get out of this dating game. And this relates to the topic of today's video, which is for ENFPs, we need to learn to enjoy the journey and love the process. Because, surprise, surprise here, there is no magical ending. There's not a finish line that you get to and you're like, yes, I am done with everything. I can just sit and eat grapes all day. Although I have to admit, when I'm here in Spain, I kind of feel like an old Roman nobleman or something. Like I eat all the different fruit. My breakfast will be like a little cheese, a little yogurt, 3 types of fruit, and this sort of stuff. It's nice. But we have this thing as ENFPs because we are idealists, perhaps. There's this, I'm not going to attempt to explain it this morning, to be honest, but we ultimately think that there's going to be this perfect way to live, right? What is the perfect morning routine for me? What is the job that will be best? Like, I'll be able to do it for 10 years. Because we're always changing things up and we love newness and challenge and we're always growing, and often our circumstances or even countries we live in are changing, we are drawn in some weird way to something concrete. Like, can I just finally get the one perfect place? What if there is no perfect place? That's what I've realized for myself, that I don't think there is one perfect city for me in the living situation. That I love the contrast of being in Spain where things are kind of slower paced and people are really friendly and the weather is great. And then there's something about a busy city that has a lot of growth happening, a lot of opportunities, that fast pace of a city, somewhere like in New York that I love as well. And maybe my perfect life isn't just finding one and staying there. It is involving moving and having different homes and all this, which is personally, that's my goal. That's what and kind of what I'm already doing. And it's perhaps the same with career, that there is no one perfect career for ENFPs that you will do and be happy with for the rest of your life. But that's okay, because as an ENFP, you learn things really quickly and you're adaptable and you jump into new situations and figure it out. So maybe it is great to work in one industry for a couple years, gain a lot of skills, excel there, and then do something else. Build on what you've done in the past, but it doesn't mean you have to follow the same career ladder that everyone else does. I think this desire to find a perfect outcome and make life like perfect and stable and this is it, I've figured it all out, leads a lot of people to make bad choices. They maybe settle in a relationship they shouldn't, in a career they shouldn't. They want to bring stability to life when life is never going to be stable. It's always changing. I mean, this is the energies of the universe, right? Everything is always in flux and changing. And as ENFPs, we're probably some of the best positioned people to deal with an ever-changing world, whether it's talking about things like AI, geopolitics, all this. Like, things will change, industries will change, the world will change, but we're very adaptable and we learn quick and we do well with change when we embrace it. But when we put up that guard and we sort of like lean into the, no, I just want things to be stable and this and have the one perfect thing, that's not who we are, and that's not how the world works either. Now, there's some people, like you may have caught my video about the guy who's scared of sand, that need so much stability, right? And they are willing to sacrifice dozens of opportunities, all the growth they could have for that security, right? I have someone very close to me that is like this, where they did well in their life, like business-wise, financially, but they could have done so much more if they just had a little more risk tolerance. I mean, they could have been a mogul, but they didn't have that risk tolerance, so weren't willing to kind of go 20% more out there risk-wise and lost a huge amount of potential opportunity. That's not us, right? We need to enjoy the journey. And if we learn to enjoy the journey and the process, then it doesn't really matter where it takes us. And the funny thing is, like, I'll go back to the dating example, if I may speak frankly. Someone who is really keen to meet a new partner, and they're like, I just need to meet someone, I need to settle down, I'm 31. Probably a less attractive energy than someone who is loving life and free and just doing what they love and have this great energy. That person is probably a lot more attractive to a potential partner than someone who is really anxious and hung up about everything and very focused on that outcome, right? Something to think about with it. So the takeaway from this video is that enjoying the journey and the process is very important to us. Now, how do you apply this in your life? Well, I've mentioned the dating, I've mentioned a few other things, but it's important to think about with any business you want to start or any career you're looking to get into. I have some videos, I'll probably link to one here about finding the perfect career for an ENFP. And one of the things I talk about there is that the day-to-day is super important. So we can often look at a career and be like, oh, I'd love to be an architect because I love beautiful buildings and I like designing things and that would work really well for me. But is the day-to-day these days of being an architect, like sitting in the park, you're not Gaudi. That's probably not how you're going to spend your day-to-day. Your day-to-day might be dealing with city permissions and doing work for your superiors and a lot of busy stuff and checking blueprints and not really what you had in mind. I hear this from teachers sometimes where in theory, being a teacher, connecting with students, inspiring them, sharing knowledge should be really fun for an ENFP. And part of that job can be, but some schools and some school systems are so caught up in bureaucracy and paperwork that the actual job is not fun anymore. So one of the things I recommend is if you're thinking of getting into a new career, to talk to people in that career. Number one, make sure the things they're doing you would actually want to do, and ask them about their day-to-day life. Like, what is your typical Tuesday look like? What does your typical Thursday look like? How do you actually spend your time? And if you don't like doing that, then it doesn't matter what the job title is or the pay is or anything else, because if you don't get your needs met and enjoy the day-to-day, the other stuff don't matter. For some types, this can work. They're like, I don't really love the day-to-day, but I'm saving money and in 5 years I'll buy a house and whatever. We are not the sacrifice now for the future kind of people. We can do it, and I personally have done it plenty of times, but we need to enjoy that future. And if the future is just like getting a mortgage, like that's not enough of a future for us, right? This is something I try to do as much as I can with my own work. So writing books, for example, is not necessarily easy. And there's parts where I get hung up on it, especially editing, which I'm behind on with the current book. That I will announce very soon, by the way. But going to a cafe, whether it's in the morning or at night, and sitting and writing, I love that. When I was in Paris in, when was it, August, September? I think it was both of those months. No, September. When I was in Paris in September, writing, like I love those days. I love getting up, reading for a little bit, going to a cafe, thinking about what I'm going to write for that day, and then putting on my crazy trance music and just writing. I love that process. So it makes sense that writing books for me is actually quite enjoyable. There's parts of it I don't like, but the core part of writing a book, which is writing, I really love doing. And so it's nice to be a writer for me, right? If I didn't like writing and found it really painful, but I love the thought of like being an author is cool and book royalties are nice, which they are, by the way, then it wouldn't really be the best choice. Like, it would be sacrificing all this for kind of an ego trip and some money at the end, which is the opposite of what we want to do. We want to enjoy the present and then have that lead us to where we want to get to. The thing is all human experience is relative, right? So if you eat the best Michelin star meal every day for a month, it's like, I don't know if you've had this experience where you've stayed in a hotel for more than a week. It's about day 10 when the best breakfast in the world, I've had this twice, once in Belgrade where I lived in a hotel for a while and once in Brazil, where the breakfast was great, but around day 10, it starts to taste horrible. It's the same breakfast. They make it the same, but it's like the same thing every day for more than 10 days. It's like, it loses it. And that's our experience, right? So you might say, I really want this outcome. And when you get it, your life does get better. So for example, for me, my life does improve when I live where I want, or when I was able to get the freedom to live where I want, set my own hours. That has made my life better. But that then becomes normal. And then once it's normal, your happiness adjusts to that normal. So our happiness and our satisfaction tends to adjust to our circumstances. And it does not mean you shouldn't improve your circumstances. You totally should, because your life does get better as you improve it. But it means that if you're only living for the outcomes, those will normalize. And if the things you have to do 10 hours a day for those outcomes are not enjoyable, then it doesn't matter the outcome, because the outcome will become normal to you, and then you'll still be doing the things you don't like to maintain that outcome. Maintain's a good word. The pain of maintaining something. I think we have just invented a new ENFP term, paintain. It's the pain of maintaining something, the ENFP nightmare. On that note, I am going to get on with some other parts of my day, off to beach volleyball, and then meeting with Ellie, who is my partner on ENFP Unleashed. And I love working with her. So part of my day-to-day is very enjoyable here. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow for the next video of the ENFP Reboot.